Red Deer County, we use a variety of vehicles for the transportation of people and equipment. It is important to confirm that vehicles are maintained to a high standard in order to ensure reliability and maximize vehicle life. These high standards are crucial in safeguarding Red Deer County staff and the motorists we share the road with. Every 14 days, each vehicle is required to have a vehicle inspection performed, as mandated by the Red Deer County Health and Safety Policy. A simple documentation process using online tools aids in the vehicle inspection.
Hey everybody, today we're going to be doing vehicle inspections and we're going to be going through step by step to ensure all the points are properly addressed. Okay, so the first step is going to be checking the gauges. So what we're going to do in this step is we're actually just going to start the vehicle and we're going to make sure there's no error lights present. While we're at this step, we can also check to make sure we have at least half a tank of fuel. We're going to check the windshield wipers and the windows, and the main thing with the windows is going to be checking to make sure it's free from obstructions, including cracks and anything else that may affect the driver's vision. So at this point we'll just turn the windshield wipers on and they function. We can also make sure that we have windshield washer fluid in. Okay, we're going to check the mirrors to make sure they're free from obstructions as well, so that includes no cracks and they function as intended. Okay, we're also going to check the defroster and the heater, and to do that we're going to turn it on and make sure we have lots of positive airflow coming through the front vents. Okay, for the next few steps, we're going to have the vehicle running and we're going to check the brakes first of all. And by pressing down on the pedal, we're going to make sure there's not any excessive play and that you can actually feel the brakes activating. While we're at this step, we can also activate our emergency brake by pressing it down all the way to the floor. So when we have the emergency brake activated all the way, make sure your vehicle is free from obstructions and you can put the vehicle in drive and slowly let go of the brake. And if your parking brake's working correctly, your vehicle should not roll forward. You can put the vehicle back in park, and at this point you're going to notice any out of the ordinary engine noises. If you notice anything, it should probably require some further investigation. Depending on the vehicle that you're driving, to turn off the emergency brake, you can either press down on the emergency brake and it'll come back up, or sometimes there'll be a release mechanism that you can pull to deactivate the emergency brake. Okay, so while we're in the vehicle, we're going to check to make sure the horn works. And in our particular vehicles that we drive, we're going to check to make sure the siren works as well. While we're in the vehicle, we can also check the steering wheel to make sure there isn't any excessive play. When you start turning the steering wheel, you should be able to feel the tires or hear the tires turning almost immediately. So down at this point, we're going to check the lug nuts. Bear in mind, in a lot of vehicles, there's just a plastic cover. It's not actually the nut that you're going to be looking at. But the main thing that we're going to look at here is to make sure that they're all still here. Believe it or not, sometimes we do see in the field where some of the lug nuts are actually missing. Next, while we're here, we're going to check the rim for any cracks. In aluminum rims like this, it's very important that there's no cracks in the aluminum itself. And while you're down here, you can check the sidewall and make sure you don't see any deep cuts or cord showing of any sort. And while we're down at this level, we're going to check the tread. There's lots of different ways of checking it, a lot of different ways, including dimes, using quarters. The most recent one I read about was a quarter. And the caribou on the front, if you hold it with the caribou's nose facing down and you push it down into your tire, if you can see the caribou's nose, that means you're getting close to the minimum level for your tread. And if it's covering more of the caribou's nose, then typically that's okay as far as tread depth goes. If the tread is worn at or below that wear bar indicator, that's typically a really good time to go in and get your tires replaced. Bear in mind, this is the minimum level that it should ever be at, and the roads that we travel here in Alberta are somewhat adverse, including rain and snow. And so if you have a tire that's at that wear bar indicator, although it may not be time to replace it, you may notice that it's not performing the way it should. We're going to check to see what the the maximum pressure, the PSI, is for this particular tire. It's marked on the tire, and then it's also marked on the inside of the door frame. There's a sticker there, and it's going to indicate the normal operating PSI pressure for your tires. So if you look on the sidewall of your tire, it's going to be stamped, and it's going to be typically at small rating. And on this particular tire, it's actually located right down on the bottom here, and it says 44 PSI. So that 44 PSI is the maximum pressure for your tire. Doesn't necessarily mean the maximum pressure you're going to fill your tire to. In our particular line of work, and according to our training, we do have to have it at the maximum pressure, but for the majority of vehicles, you're going to go by the normal operating pressure, which is found on the sticker on the inside of your door. When we checked it earlier, the sticker indicated 36 PSI, and once again, this is indicating 44 PSI. These ratings are the cold ratings, meaning that this is before your vehicle has been driven. So when you first start your vehicle in the morning, or when you first get into your vehicle, you can check your pressure at this point. Most vehicles should have a air pressure gauge of some sort. Some are digital, some are the regular analog. This particular one's digital, and so what you're going to do is firmly press down, and it's going to give a reading. This particular reading is 44, and that's the exact pressure that our particular tire should be at. And once again, this is the maximum pressure on our sidewalls, and that's according to our training, we have to have it at 44, but for the normal vehicles on the road, you're going to go by the 36 PSI that's found on the sticker inside the door. Okay, we're going to check the cap on the fuel tank. Most will actually have a cap. On this particular vehicle, we're actually just going to pop the fuel tank lid, and you're going to notice there's no cap. That's normal on this vehicle. Most vehicles will actually have a cap, and make sure it's still in place, and make sure it's the proper amount of clicks. Believe it or not, some vehicle manufacturers actually require the cap to be clicked a certain amount of times, otherwise you can't experience check engine lights. Okay, we're going to take a look under the vehicle, and we're going to look for any sort of fluid leaks. You don't necessarily need to know what's leaking, but if you notice something leaking from the vehicle, that should be addressed. Okay, at this point we're going to go through all the lights to make sure they're working properly. And when I say lights, we're talking about headlights, low beam, high beam, the signal lights, front and back, the reflectors, as well as the brake lamps or tail lamps in general, and in our case the emergency lights, as well as any clearance lights the vehicle may have. Okay, so we're going to check to make sure the spare tire is present, and we're also going to check to make sure that we have all the equipment necessary to change the tire should we need it. And that includes the jack as well as the tire iron. So we've inspected the vehicle in accordance with the checklist that we have. That checklist, we have to do that every 14 days. If you notice something out of the ordinary when you're driving the vehicle and it isn't quite 14 days, you still need to get it repaired. So just be mindful of everything that you would normally check during your inspection procedure. And if you notice any of those items throughout the following days, you should go in and get them repaired.